Hello, this is Deborah Yaw with Black Education TV. Real quickly, I wanted to show you these. These are sunflowers right here. As you see, some of them have gotten quite tall. But I wanted to show you these right here, the very small ones. The children are transplanting these right now. But what's interesting about this, the reason I wanted to show it is because you see that? All of these, including these big ones, started off in those containers. We had like 3 or 4 containers with seedlings, and the goal was to take them out and transplant them. But what happened was we only transplanted a few over here like this, and you see them, they've grown quite nicely. And we just hadn't gotten around to transplanting the others yet. And so we're doing that now. But you see the difference? Once you take it out of that temporary holding tank or holding container and put it into the earth, into the ground, the growth is definitely more expansive. That container there restricts growth. And when you apply that spiritually, how can you apply that spiritually? If you keep yourself in a box, for instance, or if you keep yourself in a container, your growth level will only go there. But once you get deeply rooted into the earth, you see that? Rooted and grounded in truth, you see that? Then you will experience overwhelming growth. These all came up from the same seed pack at the same time. But as you see, that's a little plant in his hand about to be transplanted because it stayed in that little container for too long. It stayed in the box for too long. Contained within a tiny space for too long. But once you get yourself rooted and grounded, look at that. Rooted and grounded. See now that it's coming out of that temporary holding place, it will get a chance to experience growth. You see that? They're transplanting them. They're kind of putting them kind of close, but it's okay. In nature, there is no 12 inches of space in between the plants, right? And plus, we've planted them close before. It's just going to be flowers that are going to be just bunched up together, which is okay. They're still going to experience the growth, and you're still going to get your sunflower seeds in the end, which is a nice treat. It's a nice snack for you. But I just wanted to show you here how these plants that started off at the same time had different levels of growth because of what they were growing in. So in the natural and in the spiritual, in the natural and in the spiritual, you always want to make sure that you are deeply rooted in well-cultivated, fertilized, treated earth or soil, and that you're not containing yourself within a little box right there. And that little box can be our own private doctrines that do not line up with the Most High. It could be our own beliefs and our own understandings that does not line up with Scripture. It could be our faith, our level of faith. If your faith is not even that of a mustard seed, you're restricting the growth. But if you have, the Scripture says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, that's enough pretty much to move mountains. So even just a little faith. So that goes to show you that we really don't understand what faith is. If all it takes is a little bit of faith to move a mountain, if that's all it takes and we're not moving mountains, that means that we are not experiencing that mustard seed's faith. So our faith has to come out of that box and out of that container. We've got to allow ourselves to believe according to the will of Yah, because sometimes we can believe in our own direction or have our own set of beliefs and understandings, and Yah will restrict growth too in that regard. I think about how the Scripture said how Jannes and Jambres contended with Moses, and it said they will proceed no further. Kind of reminds you of a plant that would have stayed stuck in there. It would have proceeded no further. It would have eventually died in that container there. But in order to experience that real, true spiritual growth, you got to come up out of that situation right there. Come up out of that mindset that does not line up to the Word. Come out of that mindset of doubtfulness where you're not really trusting the Most High. And come out of that mindset of believing things at a slant. You know, Abba Yah, I believe because I've seen or heard you do it for others, but I don't necessarily believe that you'll do it for me. You see, some of us have that kind of faith to where we don't actually believe that Yah can move mountains, because it hasn't happened in our lives, and so therefore we don't see it as possible. It doesn't matter, because the scripture says faith is the substance for things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now, we know that the word wasn't faith, but for those who don't understand the terminology of the ancients, I'm using the term faith. Believing. Now, believing and trusting is the substance of things hoped for. Now, when we get to the point where we can truly trust Yah, I mean trust Him according to His will, not according to what we want and what we desire that's out of His will, because He says sometimes you can pray amiss. You don't want to pray amiss for something that is not His will, because it will backfire on you. It'll be something that He will do the complete opposite of, you see. Now, I didn't come out here intending to give a message at all about any of this. It just kind of came to me as I'm watching them transplant these sunflowers. These sunflowers are going to grow up, and they're going to reach for the sky, and they're going to produce a lot of seeds. And just making the comparison of the small sunflowers there and the big ones there just kind of sent me into another direction of speaking, because I see so much of Yah's word in the garden. When I come out in the garden, I see so much Yah's word being manifested. I see it being manifested, and I am so grateful for the understanding of what happens in the garden. When you really look at what happens in the garden, there's so much that can be applied spiritually. So much that can be applied spiritually. If you put a sunflower seed in the ground, you're going to reap a sunflower. If you put a tomato seed in the ground, you're going to get tomato seeds. You see? If you put okra in the ground, you're going to get okra. If you put butternut squash seeds in the ground, you're going to get butternut squash. Whatever you plant, that's what your harvest is going to be. If you're planting good things, you're going to get a good harvest. If you're planting bad things, you're going to get a bad harvest. If you're going down a path of darkness, but that plant needs light, if that plant needs light, but you're traveling down a path of darkness, that plant will still not grow. For instance, there are some plants that require full sun. And so if you put a plant that requires full sun in the dark or in the shade, it will not grow. It doesn't matter that you've planted a seed in fertile soil. The growth will not be where it should be, if at all. So, again, there's so much to be understood in gardening. There's so much to be understood. The scripture says that the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. That's another thing. There's a lot of work to be done. Yah has a harvest, but He needs laborers in that harvest. But what do you have? You have those who are not interested in the harvest. They're sitting on the sideline, not interested in Yah's harvest at all. He needs laborers. That's why it says, pray ye therefore that the master of the harvest will send forth laborers into the harvest. For the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. We hear thunder rolling. We're about to call it quits. Our work is finished for now. The children just wanted to get the rest of their sunflowers in because it's been some time now. And they actually said, yay, when we said, let's get the rest of the sunflowers in. And so that's what we have done. We're going to let nature take its course and go ahead and water this here garden. We thank Abba Yah for the growth process so far. We love Him, and we are so grateful to Him for the mind and the will to do this. And so we're going to go ahead and close this out and say shalom, and we love you, family.